My name is Darlene Rondo, and I'm the Vice President of Best Practices for Leonardo's online merchandising group, and I'm going to be your host for today's event. Welcome to everyone who is joining us today. We really appreciate it. And I think you guys are in for a special treat because we are just chatting between us and just talking about the great practical information that we're going to be sharing with you guys today. So some housekeeping items before we begin. First, we're going to be recording today's webinar, and we'll be sending you a thank you for joining us email with a link to the recording and the slides. You also have a questions dialog box, and we go to meeting panel. So as we move through our discussion today, please feel free to send in your questions, and we'll address them throughout our webinar as well as at the end if we have some time left over. We're also going to be live tweeting throughout today's discussion. You can join in the conversation by using the hashtag LeoWebinar. Now I'd like to introduce our very special guest for today's discussion. Kat Arichitano is the Senior Content Marketing Manager at Sojourn, a data-driven performance marketing company that works with top travel brands and independent hotels. And with nearly a decade of social media and content marketing experience, Kat helps hoteliers and travel marketers improve their marketing efforts worldwide. Kat's from Illinois and holds a PhD in philosophy. So maybe for those of you who are wondering about the meaning of life, maybe you can send that in. And Kat's going, no, she's not going there. Today, Kat is importantly going to be sharing with us the results from a joint study Sojourn and Google conducted about the modern traveler's path to purchase and what role mobile is playing in all this. And first, as we usually do for you guys who are no stranger to our events, we'd like to launch a poll. And we'd like to know, where are you located? Are you in North America, Europe, Middle East, or Africa, Asia Pacific, or Latin America? And if you could please weigh in, that just helps us understand sort of where you're coming from, the business issues that may be unique to each of the regions. And so that's very helpful to us to understand. So, wow, 3% from Asia Pacific. Thanks, you guys, because I know the time change is significant. We have about 60% from North America, 40% from Europe, and 3% from Latin America. So thanks very much for weighing in on that. I have another poll that I'd like to launch as well, and this poll is a question: do you have a mobile website? And specifically what I'm talking about, one that has been built for mobile devices. And again, the answers to these questions just help us understand the framework, and it helps us sort of direct our conversation today. So it looks like about 60% of you have one, 36 or 35% say no, and then 4% are not sure. So we're going to be talking about how you can know whether or not your website is mobile friendly. And so stay tuned for that. And then one last poll before we launch our formal event today. We'd like to know, how many direct bookings are you currently generating through your mobile website? So plenty, not enough, I'm not really sure because I'm not really tracking. So it looks like, as I would have suspected, that the majority, like 65% of you, say not enough, 25% are saying not sure, and then about 10% of you are saying, yeah, I'm pretty happy with the number of mobile bookings I'm getting. So thank you very much for weighing in. And you guys have found the GoToMeeting panel and the questions dialog box. So as we move through, as I said, please feel free to keep sending in those questions and comments, and as we move through, we will address them. So let's start now by jumping into today's topic, which actually is inspired by Google's new algorithm changes for mobile this year. We're also seeing a ton of new research indicating how mobile is changing the travel shopping journey, and Kat's going to discuss this in more detail as well. But as a company that believes in efforts to increase direct bookings, we want to continue to help you stay informed of all these changes and then use this knowledge to your advantage. So let's begin with a high-level look of where we are today, and when it comes to mobile browsing and travel shopping, just what the landscape looks like. So back in July of 2016, Google released a study on how micro moments are reshaping the travel shopping journey. And in it, they suggested that as many as 40% of visits to U.S. travel sites now come from mobile. And while these mobile visits tend to be shorter, they're more frequent, suggesting that travel shoppers are searching at various times throughout the day and on the go. So the other thing they said is what people are searching for really depends on what stage of the journey they're in. However, what we can also conclude is that mobile is affecting every stage of this shopping path: inspiration, research, validation, booking, and sharing. And 60% of searches about the destination actually happen on mobile devices. So a search like honeymoon destination or girls' weekend trip is telling us that these people are right at the beginning of the journey and are looking for inspiration. As they move further down the path to purchase and begin researching and comparing different hotels, mobile plays an even bigger role. 70% of travelers with a smartphone are in the research phase, and 94% of leisure travelers move between devices as they plan or book a trip. So it's important to remember, because sometimes hoteliers can be a little short-sighted when it comes to mobile, and I say that because I often hear people say that they're not paying attention to mobile because they currently don't receive any bookings from a mobile device. Clearly, a lot of planning is happening on mobile devices, so if your property wants to even be considered as a good option, a good mobile experience is essential. And for those of you who may be writing like crazy all these stats, remember that we're going to send you a thank you for joining us email with a link back to the recording, and we'll be putting this on SlideShare as well. So don't get carpal tunnel writing down all these stats, because you'll get them. So are people booking on mobile? Well, you know, now it's time to really dispel the rumor that people aren't booking on mobile. In fact, 31% of leisure travelers, which is a good chunk, have booked travel on a smartphone, and 53% of business travelers say the same. Further, half of all referral traffic from Google hotel ads are now coming from smartphones. This is more than doubling year over year. And with that said, there's also research that suggests that 46% of travelers with a smartphone will make a decision on mobile, but then interestingly, they're going to book on another device. They worry that they're not finding the best price or making the best decision on mobile. The other thing is usability is a major barrier to securing mobile bookings. 54% of leisure travelers and 69% of business travelers say that mobile limitations or usability are their main reason for booking on another device. And later on, I'm going to show you some real-life examples of how you can tackle these issues to increase your conversions on mobile. One final thing before I hand this over to Kat is I want to talk about Google's algorithm update. As many of you may be aware, Google made a very important announcement at the end of last year, and they said that they are going to switch to a mobile-first index. So I want to explain what that means. Google gathers information on every public website available on the internet, and then they put it into a giant index. That index is then used to return the most relevant search results to a search query, because Google's objective is to satisfy the questions that consumers are asking. In the past, Google would crawl and collect information from desktop websites. Since Google is looking at your mobile website first, it's important that it includes as much information as possible without impacting load times. Websites that contain relevant information to a search query, combined with what Google deems as mobile-friendly and has those mobile-friendly website elements, will be given preference in search engine results. In other words, those websites are going to rank higher. And this is going to have a negative impact on organic traffic for hotels that are not optimized for mobile and have a positive impact for those who are. And I'm going to talk more about what Google defines as mobile friendly in a little bit. But for now, I'm going to hand the baton over to Kat. And Kat, I'm going to give you the keyboard and mouse, and you have control of the board, as the game show host would say.
Thank you so much, Darlene, and thank you so much for having me on today. I'm really excited to talk to both Leonardo and Sojourn friends and family about what we do and what we have seen with our latest report. So as Darlene mentioned, I am the Senior Content Marketing Manager, so I have the privilege of writing a lot of our great reports that we get because we use our data. We have billions of travel intent data points that allow us to know, let's say, when someone booked a flight somewhere and then they're looking for a hotel. And we can serve them ads for independent hotels when in real time on the cross device. So because we have all this really great data that powers what we do, we give it away for free to our clients, and we write these really great reports. So with this first report, or this report that I'm going to talk about today, let me just make sure I have full batoning control. We worked with Google on our latest report. I don't think thanks. Okay. So this report just came out a few weeks ago. If you haven't downloaded it, I would recommend it. It is called From Search Engine to Booking Engine, Sojourn's 2017 Hotel Report. So something that we have really great access to is the searching and booking data for independent hotels, for almost every travel vertical. We can see all of those things. What we can't see is what people put into their Google queries. Only Google can see that. So this is why we partnered with Google on this report, is Google can see those really high-level searches that people are doing, like girls' weekend or honeymoon vacation, and then we can see how that moves all the way down into specific searches on OTA websites, on independent hotel websites, on flights, all the way into booking. So we partnered with Google to show that full funnel and that full story. How do people make it from the very first Google search all the way down into booking on mobile, on desktop, and we really focused on the hotel industry for this one. So the report it's really cool, it's interactive, you can like toggle between flight and hotel and luxury and economy, but for today I just want to focus on the section and the findings that we found about mobile bookings and mobile searching for the hotel industry, and the takeaways and how that it can help you think about what you do with your mobile strategy. So this is from Google, so this is where we're going to start off, and this is sort of echoing a lot of the things that Darlene already spoke about, the share of mobile hotel queries. So what Google sees is, for instance here, what this says is 73% of all economy hotel searches are done on mobile phones, which is an overwhelming majority are being done. And if you look across every segment, I mean, go all the way to luxury. Luxury is all the way at the other end of the equation, and luxury has only 45%, right? Only about half of all queries for luxury hotels are done on mobile phones. So this really speaks to what the current usage of mobile phones are for searches for the hotel industry and across segments. So it's definitely like, if you take a look and see where your hotel falls in, what segment they fall into, I think it can really highlight just how important mobile is for you. And that's the thing is, I mean, definitely if you're an economy hotel, it is so important that you have a mobile strategy because the majority of people are searching and coming to you on a mobile phone. But all the way down to luxury, this is something that impacts across all hotel segments. And this is one thing that I really like about data and about data-driven storytelling is this is a really interesting piece. It's really interesting to see just how many people are doing these searches on their phone. But if you add even one more little data set, this really, you illuminate this in a different way, and that is this piece. So this is again from Google, and this is the growth of mobile hotel queries year over year. So what you see is every segment is growing. Now I know you're going to look at luxury and you're going to go, well, of course luxury is growing the highest. They had the most to gain, right? They were the lowest, they only had 45%, so of course they're growing. And yes, that's absolutely the case, that because there were less mobile users searching for luxury hotels, they have more room to grow. But just because there's room for growth doesn't mean that growth has to happen. But what is interesting is that it is happening. But I think it's even further interesting because even economy and mid-scale, who were mostly mobile, are still growing, right? And growing at a fairly rapid clip, 14% year over year, when you're already at a 75% of searches is no slouch rate. So this just sort of illuminates that while that usage is there, and it's already beginning to, no matter where you are segment-wise, sort of eat up those searches, right, like a little pie chart, that growth is still happening, and it's happening year over year, and it's happening across segmentation. So we at Sojourn wanted to sort of dig a little bit deeper into some of these mobile queries, and so what we took a look at is day of the week. So how are mobile searches being done across days of the week across desktop and across mobile, and how do those compare? So that's what we see here. So in yellow we have the desktop, and in pink we have mobile. Now what we see is really interesting, and sort of, I think, speaks to the way people live their lives, sort of, right? So on the weekends we see desktop searching go down, and mobile searching eats up, right? It goes, boop. Our insight analyst Yuvia does this little, like, she makes a noise every time she talks about it. So that's the official mobile noise. So what we see is as people leave their desktops, as they leave work, as they head off to the grocery store, as they head off to the kids' soccer game, they're still bringing their phones with them, and they're still doing their travel searching there. If anything, so we see it ramp up to almost a third of all the searches happening on the weekends are done on mobile. So this is really good to know. So for instance, if you, like most people, don't have an infinite budget or an infinite number of resources to spend when it comes to, let's say, mobile ads or any type of mobile strategy, it's really great to know that, for instance, that mobile ad spend should match that lift, right? As people are looking more and more on their mobile, so too should your campaigns or your strategies. But this is where I think, like I mentioned before, we partnered with Google because it's important to see the whole picture. And that's really great if we see all of these searches going on, that Google sees tons of searches in economy, growth across all segments. We see the searches happening across all days of the week. But if those searches don't convert to bookings on the mobile device, what's going on? Like, we're not getting the full picture. We're only painting a really rosy picture, which I'm sure everyone would be excited about, but it's just not the full picture. So this is where we decided to look at bookings. And this is, if we're going to do official sound effects for different slides, this sound effect would be wah, wah, wah. Right? Because we see the bookings drop. The bookings don't. I remember on the weekends we saw that pinch up, and we still see a pinch to 14 and 15%. But we were seeing 30% of people searching and only 15% of people booking. So that's a 15 percentage points that where those people go. As Darlene pointed out, maybe they went onto their desktop and booked with you. Fingers crossed, right? This is what I always like to think about, like real life examples that you experience. Let's say you're at the grocery store, you're doing your shopping. Literally you're shopping, and then you're waiting in line, and you pick up your phone and you're looking for something. Let's say you're looking for your hotel, and you want to book with that, but like you can't. What is that breakfast like, or what is that queen size room look like, or the queen size bed? And you can't get all the information you want easily. So you put your phone away, you finish your grocery shopping, you go home, you unload your groceries, maybe you take the dog for a walk, and now it's at night. And you're like, oh man, I still have to book that hotel for that trip. What are the chances that you remember that specific hotel that you were looking at 3 hours ago or 4 hours ago on your mobile phone, and when you go to your desktop you book? Like, let's all hope that that was your hotel and that they still remember, but the reality is that that's not a guarantee. And we're not seeing those bookings come through the same way because something's going on. And this is what Darlene and I really want to talk about, is how we can cut down this like wah wah sound and get that crunch to happen where people don't abandon the mobile bookings, or don't take their mobile searches either to their desktop or elsewhere, but really continue that and book with you on their mobile phones.
We have a couple of questions that I think we should tee up now. One is from Nathaniel in our audience, and they want to know, do you have any insights into data for mobile bookings through Facebook? Was that part of the study?
It was all mobile booking. So if they came through Facebook and converted on a mobile phone, yeah, we wouldn't sort of like distinguish one way or the other as long as the booking was done on a, right, because you would book directly on the website. As long as the person booked directly on a website where we can see that, then yes, it would be wherever they came through.
Yeah, the other thing I would add to that, and what we see uh, through our Facebook suite of apps, is Facebook is a terrific referral engine. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, right. So, as opposed to people going to Facebook and then booking right from there, what we see is, because Facebook is a social platform, right? They want to engage with the property on a social level. What's going on? What are people saying about the property? You know, talking about more social stuff, and then the Facebook business pages that have apps within them that enable the shopper to go further and go, okay, you know what, let me take a look at the rooms, or let me let me explore other parts of the hotel. I think that's the real benefit in that.
I mean, Facebook is, Facebook and social media is not, it's the new word of mouth, right? You know, you trust other people who, like not the third person validation of somebody who stayed there, and I'm not the, people in general trust that more than they will sometimes when you say things about yourself, right? And really that we see social media more and more becoming that new word of mouth where, and I've talked about this before when I talk about social media, that things like Twitter and like Facebook are becoming a pseudo search engine, where people will go into the Twitter search bar and type in a property name. Or I've seen people where we saw people where they did this whole thing where it was like, I need suggestions for where to take my kids, like hashtag summer vacation, right? And like all these people like who are also planning are talking in this hashtag. They don't know each other, but in real time you can get advice from real people, and we see that more and more happening, that Facebook and a number of different social media platforms are really transforming the way that people search and also book, and they are making it easy to be mobile as well, because they are already mobile friendly and mobile first. And so it's a great way to get a leg up mobile wise, is to make sure that your Facebook page and your Twitter and everything is up and running and optimized for all that.
Yeah, absolutely. And one other question, it relates to this slide, maybe the slide before, from Chris, who wants to know, how does this day of the week data reconcile with the percentages by the hotel type that you showed us?
Yeah, so they're different. So one is from Google and one is from Sojourn. So we don't have the exact same data, obviously. We look at different things. We do, like, so for instance, when we do a report like this, we do check in on, so we have access to a number of similar data points, and so we check in to make sure that those are accurate. Like, we're both seeing the same thing, right? And we compare data sets to make sure that we're essentially seeing the same thing on the same side. So they don't necessarily, like, this is not broken down by segment, whereas the Google one is. We have some that we break down by segment later we both use the STAR report. So we use like a lot of to sort of validate and make sure, our analysts are crazy, awesome, rigorous about the data that we put out. Working with Google in particular, who are also crazy awesome, making sure that the data is as accurate as possible. So there's not necessarily, because we don't break it down by segmentation, we can't say that, like, this is luxury for this day of the week. It's just a different set.
Fair enough, fair enough. Okay, let's talk about the full funnel.
Yes, okay, so seeing all of this, right, this is Darlene and I, like, we're not throwing a bunch of numbers at you to sort of to show and highlight where the problem areas are, but that's not where Darlene and I are going to leave you, right? We want to be sure to offer a number of practical solutions to face these challenges head on. And so that's really, I think, something that her and I have been talking about is, when we think about, we were talking about this the other day, and we're like, I've heard it's the year of mobile for the last 5 years. So everybody knows that you need to be mobile friendly. Everybody knows you need a mobile strategy, but why? So why, if we all know this, why is there still a struggle? So one of the reasons I think that there's still a struggle is that maybe the solutions or the strategies that we implement are not full funnel. They only focus on one aspect. So I'm only serving mobile ads, or I only have one component of my website is mobile friendly instead of being mobile first or something like that. So it's really, when we talk about a mobile strategy, it's from the top all the way to the bottom. It's from that search on Google or wherever people are searching, to when they're doing their education, when they're trying to compare different companies or different hotels or different destinations, all the way down to that booking engine. And that whole experience from top to bottom has to be friction-free, or that people will abandon throughout the funnel. So that's really what Darlene and I are going to talk about, is what are the different ways, what's a holistic way to go mobile friendly, not just here are 3 things you can do to make your website a little better. This needs to be taken full on to be fully mobile friendly and mobile first. So that's what we'll talk about today. So let's start off this I think really sets the stage for where you need to start. And where you need to start is with search. So we know that 67% of all hotel searches start on Google. So as Darlene mentioned earlier, right, people even start any travel planning, girls' weekend, long weekend getaway, it starts with Google, and it starts on search engines. So if you want to get people, right, if we're going full funnel and you want to get people at the very top when they first begin, it is important that you have a strong search strategy. So what do we mean by that? So we mean a few things, and this is where Darlene and I are going to tag team, which I think will be best. So we mean a few things when we say a strong search strategy, because there's 2 different ways to sort of think about it. They really go hand in hand though, and that is SEO, which is search engine optimization, and SEM, which is search engine marketing. So search engine optimization is that all of the things that you do organically or for free to your website. Maybe you write really rich keyword phrases throughout your website. Whereas SEM is that it's that AdWords, is that where you pay to make sure you rank high by bidding on certain words, bidding on your brand terms so that you appear high. But either way, both efforts go to you appearing really high up in that search engine result. So that as 67% of people are doing those searches, your property, your brand is appearing at the top of those searches. So what we do at Sojourner, we do SEM. So this is a screenshot of an example of a client that we work with, where we really power their SEM by helping them, and we work with them we bid on their brand terms. So something that you may not be aware of, but if you go and Google your property, other people will bid on your brand name. So other OTAs, for instance, bid on your brand name. So actually, if someone's trying to find you, they could actually end up somewhere else, even though they think that they're clicking on something that will send them directly to your website. So it's really important that you think about and you're bidding on your own brand keywords, so that as those people are searching for you or searching for your property, that they're able to find you. And Darlene's going to touch on this, but with SEM and with many of these things, it's not necessarily a set it and forget it, because as Darlene already mentioned, with Google and Bing changing their algorithms, you have to sort of keep up with them and with those changes. And that's why Sojourner sort of took on SEM, because it's a difficult task, because it requires all of that constant updating.
Right. So, Kat, thank you for that entree. As Kat said, we're tag teaming it. So Kat talked about SEM, and she explained SEO and SEM, and I am going to focus on SEO. And as Kat just talked about, many third-party travel sites like Expedia and Booking.com, they're going to bid on your brand terms, and just because of the sheer size of their ad budgets, they're probably going to win. So it's important to broaden your strategy to include what's called long-tail keywords, and this is where optimization comes in. So a long-tail keyword is a search term that contains 4, 5, or more words and are very specific in nature. So for example, Kids-friendly Miami hotel near the zoo. Long tail keywords are less competitive and they're more likely to drive way more qualified, and I emphasize qualified traffic to your website. And that's because these search terms are more targeted, or said another way, they're more descriptive of what someone is looking for. So a long tail search for something like kid-friendly Miami hotel near the zoo indicates that the travel shoppers actually already identified their main hotel shopping criteria. They know the location and the type of property they want to stay in, and they're more likely ready to book. This is backed up by another study by SEO and SaaS company Conductor. They found that long tail keywords actually convert 2.5 times better than head terms. And a head term is another name for popular keywords which are generally very competitive, like hotels in Chicago, as an example. So for more information about long-tail keywords and how to identify the best ones, check out the blog article that we are sharing right now in the chat box. Kat, anything to add here?
No, I think you're absolutely right. I really like the stress of the qualified, because I think right at that point, someone is really particular and really looking for something specific. And if you offer that specific, unique thing, this is exactly how you get in front of the right person. So yeah, no, that's great. I love that example too. That really solidifies it, in your head.
Yeah, yeah, and the other thing I would add is that when I talk to people, because this concept can be counterintuitive, right? I want more people coming to my website, not fewer, right? And yet we know through the ages that target marketing does a better job at converting, because you're talking to people who are really interested in what you have to offer. So it's important to keep that in mind. And Kat, I'm going to move the next slide for you.
Thank you, I appreciate that. All right, so at the top of the funnel, hopefully, right, we're setting really good search strategies to help get people to your website and to your mobile-friendly website. As they move down through the funnel, though, right now they maybe have a better idea of exactly where they want to go. They're doing their what we call planning, right? They're getting educated at this point. They're comparing different options, and they're doing a lot of searching. So we also looked at this in the report, how many searches people do on average. And we broke this up by segment and across the day of the weeks. And so, for instance, we see that 30 or more days out, economy travelers are doing 12 or more searches. So if they're searching 12 websites or 12 hotel websites, and they're comparing that, what are the chances that if you were the first, that when they're on their 11th, they still remember you, that you're still top of mind, especially if they're on mobile phone and jumping back and forth. So we find that retargeting ads is a really great way, and these are some examples of the mobile-friendly ads we at Sojourn use to retarget or to reach our own prospects of people who are interested with things that we offer. And so it's really important that when you think about your marketing efforts, that display ads are a part of that, and that retargeting people across device is a part of that, because your travelers don't only live on desktop, right? They're back and forth, and so your middle of the funnel, your display campaigns need to be as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a question that I'd like to tee up here, and it's from Maxine, and she wants to know, what's the better proportion between brand versus generic keywords? Should we consider an 80-20 ratio? And I'll take a stab at this and then
go for it.
If you like. So first, I would suggest that you get with your brand and understand from them what keywords they are targeting. Here's the thing. Brands do an excellent job at targeting with keywords that will draw the traveler. They also have the budget to do it. That will draw the traveler, loyalty programs and just general brand attributes. The property itself has all of the local storytelling that the traveler is also looking for. So I think the best approach, if it were me, I would get with my brand, understand what they're bidding on and what their strategy is, and then supplement that with with a local SEO strategy and a local SEM strategy that complements it. Because I've seen the two. In fact, I'm going to show you a couple of examples of brands in a few minutes. I've seen when the two are done well, it's really powerful.
Yeah. Yeah, I would just add in that we're actually going to be covering this, Darlene, in April. I believe it's April 25th. So we at Sojourn are going to be hosting a webinar on SEO and SEM, and really dig into the different questions exactly like this. And we're going to be bringing in our SEM strategy, or our SEM specialist, and he's going to be really going through all of the nitty gritty of like, this is how you should think about these different branded versus versus very generic, and he'll break down all of this. And Darlene is going to also talk about how really get into SEO, and we're going to spend the full time only on search and on search. So I would recommend, if you have questions when that invite comes out, to ask our search specialist then. Yeah, absolutely, because these are exactly the questions that everybody's asking, right? And so that's why we're rolling out more education initiatives like these webinars, and one for search coming up next month.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the last part of the funnel, right, is all the way down at the bottom when they're ready to book. And this is potentially where a lot of the friction happens. So Sean, I don't know if you've ever seen Sean Auckland, he is at Google. When he speaks about mobile friendly or mobile first, he'll say, he's like, pull out your phone, go on your website on your phone, and try and book a vacation for a week for a family of 4, and let me know how it goes, right? Let me know how that goes. If that is not an infuriating experience, then you're doing a great job. If it is not, you can be a mirror to yourself. And this is really, when you get down to that booking, you need to make sure that that is mobile friendly, that people as easily as possible can do that, can complete that transaction, so that they don't go back to a desktop, or a few hours later make their decision later. And this is really where I think Darlene is going to show all the amazing work that Leonardo does to help with this.
Great, thanks, Kat.
Yeah.
And so let's look at some of the things you can do to your mobile website to encourage the holy grail, which is those direct bookings. And I said up front that I'd help define what the term mobile friendly is. And so let's look at those elements. At its most basic, this means that your website provides a positive user experience for mobile visitors and caters to the smaller devices that they're carrying. So text, images, videos should be large enough to read without having to zoom in, pinch, or scroll across the screen. You should avoid, like the plague, software that is not compatible with mobile devices. So Flash video as an example. And your folks in IT can certainly help you identify that those different kinds of formats. Similarly, avoid using those intrusive pop-ups that actually stop the mobile user from viewing the content that they're trying to read on your web page. Your mobile website should load quickly, because if it doesn't, people leave the site too soon, and it's hard to get them back. And then this sounds obvious, but it should cater to touch. So, for example, hyperlinks should have enough space between them to enable easy tapping. And the best way, and I love the term that Kat just used, use yourself as a mirror, is try it. See if your website meets these requirements by viewing it on your smartphone or your tablet. And I know a lot of you in one of the first polls we took, you weren't sure if your website was mobile friendly. This is an excellent way to try it, easy way. Just go to your website and see how easy is it to book, what's your browsing experience. You can also run a test with Google to see how mobile friendly your website currently is, and we'll provide a link to this test in the follow-up email we send after the webinar. So as promised, let's look at some important elements specific to hotel mobile websites. And for full disclosure, all of the examples that I'm going to show you are Leonardo clients using our Visly product. So first, Your homepage should be visually engaging with simple navigation to more information, as well as a booking engine that is front and center. And this Holiday Inn, the Casa Grande in Arizona, they do a great job at this. First, they're using a photo of one of their guest rooms as their hero shot on the homepage. This is something we always advocate for over using an exterior shot of your hotel. And the reason is simple, based on data. We did an analysis of over 500 million pieces of media, and we found that guest rooms are the most viewed image on hotel websites, in fact 2 times more than the second most viewed item, which is restaurants. So leading with your guest room images is smart. The text on the homepage in this example is also very descriptive and provides a good amount of detail, which is good for SEO. And their hyperlinks are spaced out enough for easy tapping. And this website has a very simple menu navigation to view the top elements that shoppers truly care about: accommodations, the photo gallery, and special offers. You can't see it on these screenshots, but the Holiday Inn Casa Grande also provides a link to TripAdvisor, rounding out the 4 things that travelers truly care about and are looking for. And they also include shortcuts to their special offers from the homepage, as you can see on the tablet example, which is the one furthest right. And the other thing you can see is that that Book Now button is always visible. So let's look at another example to discuss our next tip, which is to have good integration with your booking engine. Remember how I said some people prefer not to book on a mobile device because they aren't sure they're getting the best deal, or the usability of the website doesn't support the transaction? Well, take a look at what the Hotel Kleber in Paris is doing. I love this hotel. They make it really easy to book on a mobile device, like super simple. And they actually, what they call out, which I think is smart, and I haven't seen a lot, is that the booking can be made in 4 easy steps. And the traveler knows this because of the number of pages indicated at the top of the website. They keep their form fields short, only asking for essential information that they need to complete the booking. And they also reassure travelers during the booking process that they're getting the best rate, both in the description of the rate and in the booking process itself. And then lastly, the example to the far right, they also assure travelers that the transaction is secure by including a security icon. All of these things work together to help reduce booking abandonment and drive more direct bookings. And then one more example is the Miami Doubletree Airport. Not everyone can or wants to book on a mobile device at the moment, right? And so for that reason, it's important to provide click-to-call functionality so that hotel shoppers can easily phone your property to book direct or call you for other reasons when they're on the go, right? So this property makes it easy for travel shoppers to get in touch from any page on their website. So whether they're inquiring about rooms or restaurants or directions to the hotel, and they also have a Google Maps integration, also smart. Other things you may want to consider is to include a mobile-specific special. I've seen properties who do this very effectively. The only way you can get this offer is from the mobile website. And they also use these pages to feature local insights and things to do. Again, really good for SEO, but it also demonstrates to the hotel shopper that you actually care about the guest experience and you want them to have a great time. So today we've learned why mobile is critically important to your marketing strategy to increase direct bookings, because 1, Google is changing their search algorithms to focus on mobile first, and importantly, because consumer behavior is changing with mobile devices. And you've seen actual examples of hotel properties that have nailed their mobile presence, and these guys are seeing real results. So with that, let me tell you a little bit about the product that these clients are using, then we'll take a few more questions. So as I said, all the examples that we showed you today are Visly customers. Visly is our digital marketing system for hotels, specifically that enable you to create, publish, update, and maintain a visually stunning hotel website, mobile website. It comes with Facebook suite of apps and digital brochures for other third-party channels all in one place. And Visly can really improve your digital marketing performance by centralizing all of your efforts in a single system, gives you a conversion-driven desktop and mobile website designed with SEO best practices in mind, and it's actually pretty easy to learn without any technical skills, replaces the need for perhaps expensive agencies and long turnaround times, and it's also customizable. So you can add your own content that best tells your unique story while still being able to meet brand guidelines if you're a branded hotel, as we saw with the Holiday Inn and the DoubleTree examples. Your Visly subscription also comes with a storytelling specialist who works with you to build out your website and write content on your behalf. And our storytelling specialists are creative writers, actually, and they're well versed on SEO best practices so that you can create a story and present it in a way that's going to rank higher in search results. And finally, more than 4,000 hotels are using Visly to drive more bookings at a lower cost. So you can learn more by visiting, that's hard to say, visiting www.visly.com. So thanks, everybody. I have one more poll, and we'd like to understand what you thought about today's content. Was it helpful to you? Not so much, or you're still thinking about it. And your answer and feedback to this question helps us understand, are we on the right track with delivering the information that is important and useful to you? If we are, great, we're going to keep doing it, and where there are areas where we need to improve and keep tweaking it, we will. So thank you, everyone, for weighing in. The majority of you, 83% said for sure, 14% said not sure yet, still thinking about it, and 3% said maybe not so much. So thank you. We do appreciate your feedback. With that, like Kat said, we are going to be a guest on Sojourn's webinar on April 25th, and we're going to be talking about search engine marketing, specifically for hotels, SEO, and SEM explained. Our next webinar is going to be in May, and stay tuned for details in the next month or so, where we'll be zeroing in on the topic. And we do an awful lot of writing that have helpful tips around mobile and digital marketing. So that will arrive in your inbox. As I said up front, we're going to send you a thank you for joining us email with a recording of the webinar, so please share it with your colleagues or listen to it again. And Kat, we have a couple of more questions that we would like to tee up. And a lot of comments in our chat box, people asking about the Sojourn webinar next month. So I think, Kat, what is it, April 25th?
I believe, yes, I believe so. We're just finalizing all of the details, so we'll be sending out an email to our database. It'll be all over social media. I believe, Darlene, you guys are sending out. It'll be on the internet. If you're on the internet, you'll find it. But yes, feel free to tweet at us if you, or follow us actually on Twitter, and then you'll know as soon as it goes live and as soon as you can register, because we'll be posting it up on our social media as well as emails, and it'll be all over. I'm excited that you're excited, though. We're excited about it, so please come. It'll be fun.
Absolutely. Here's a question from Ivan, and he has a question/comment. Doesn't Google punish websites with floating buttons like Book Now? No, is the short answer. What Google is most concerned about is that the website contain the information that most closely aligns with what the searcher is looking for. So like the example where I said, hotels in Miami that are kid-friendly near the zoo. If your web page can speak to each of those attributes of that query, Google loves that because they want to satisfy that user, right? That's what they're all about. And so the fact that you have a Book Now button on every page, in fact, is a really smart thing because now your website is a really good match for what the consumer is looking for. And because it is, as Kat and I were talking about, really targeting, because it is a really good match, you want that Book Now button to be on every page because, and this also talks to how consumers shop and behave, booking travel is not linear.
No,
People,
absolutely.
right? People jump around. They go from your website, they want to look at a review, they want to look at the OTAs because they want to see price comparisons. They're going to a lot of different places and there's tons of research on that. So the fact that your Book Now button is front and center on your website is not only smart, but it's really necessary. Anything to add, Kat?
No, you're hit the nail on the head, Darlene, as always.
Thank you. So we had a question, I think it's a good question from Pavlos, and it is, what's a good average of mobile page loading time? So it's important to understand that, consumers, particularly today, and particularly on mobile, have the attention span of a gnat, right? So we've seen anywhere 2 to 5 seconds. On the high end, maybe you have 9 seconds. And that's, if you count it out, it feels like a long time, but 9 seconds goes pretty fast.
Yeah, and the only thing that I would add too is, because we often get questions about like, well, what's the best way I should do this and how, and there's always, yes, there's data you can turn to and that can be helpful, but I really think something that, Darlene and I both touched on is you are a consumer too. You are a traveler as well. You go on a website and see, like, is that an acceptable loading period for you, right? That you are a very good, you can be a very good test person for your own website and for that own experience and see how that works. And if that 2 to 5 seconds of your website you don't feel like it loads comparable to any other website you'd be on, there's your test right there, right? While there is a lot of obviously technology that goes into it, we need to understand and trust ourselves as smart, people in the hotel and travel industry, that we are also travelers, and so we can use our experiences to help mold and motivate how we want other people to experience our own websites and our own content and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. One more question, and then I think we're going to be out of time. And this comes from Naftali. What about voice search? Excellent, excellent question.
Yeah.
Right? So of all of the associations and tech companies and hotel marketers, all the buzz, I think, is, so where does search go next, right? We have Echo and we have Siri and, all sorts of voice attendants. I think this is something to watch. I know it's on everyone's radar because voice search is going to change the way, and you can bet Google's all over this, right? Voice search is going to change the way results are returned and how people find what they're looking for when it comes to hotel rooms. So more to come on that, and we'll try and include that piece perhaps on our next search webinar.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, we can get into that. That sounds great.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you, Kat. We really appreciate it. Your insights are smart, and we really look forward to our webinar with you guys next month on more on the topic. And most importantly, thank you, audience. You were really interactive today. I apologize for not getting to all the questions tons of good questions. We will try and answer those in our follow-up blogs. And as I said, we have that topic teed up with Sojourn next month. So we'll try and integrate some of this as well.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I think it'll be helpful. So thank you, everybody. This is Thursday, which is, in fact, the new Friday. So, so everyone, if you can, have a good start of your weekend, or if you have another day in your work week, enjoy your Friday. Thanks again, Kat. We'll talk to you next time.
Thank you so much, Darlene. Bye, guys.
Bye.